Good afternoon. Told you that starting chapter 3 here, we start to get into a few problems, quantitative types of problems, and a little bit of math. Sorry, we'll get into some more math later on as the semester goes on. So hopefully you guys all don't have too much distress when we talk about math. But here we are. It's week 3. It started today, January 25th. You guys have a quiz, of course, that's due. And the Chapter 3 assignment, which should be problems 2, 3, 4, 7, 10, and 13. And like I've said, the quizzes, I expect you guys can read the book. They're open book quizzes. Take the take the quiz. Hopefully you read the chapter first so you have a pretty good idea where you're going. Otherwise you'll spend 2 hours doing the quiz. And there might be a 2-hour limit on the quizzes. I don't remember. I think that's kind of the default, so I might have left that in there. But grab your book, open it up, take the quizzes, do a good job on those, and then I'm going to help you with the assignments, because the assignments get into kind of the quantitative parts. So that's what we'll do in this discussion today. So again, 2, 3, 4, 7, 10, and 13. And what I'll try to do is either problems, like if I've assigned you guys number 2, I'll do number 1, and hopefully it's pretty similar, or some such, or sometimes I can't do an alternate problem. So I'll do the same problem, I'll just change the numbers on it and give you guys a pretty good understanding. This will also help in terms of how I would like you guys preferred, to set these up. And remember, I've required that you do them here in Excel, and so please do that. And this is the preferred way to set them up. You can see I've done problem 1 on this sheet here, and I've got, it's chapter 3 problem 1, chapter 3 problem 2 down along the bottom. I've got the chapter and problem numbers there. If I want to set up a new one, I just hit the new sheet. It's over there. I don't like it there. I can left click and drag that down, okay, and then right click and hit rename. So right click and hit rename, and I could say this is 3-12 or whatever the next one might be, and I'll just leave that blank, okay. And I'll try to, as I remember, to enlarge these to a point where hopefully you guys can see them all right as I'm going through the problems. So problem 3-1, and you guys don't have that, but you have 2, and I think 2 is similar. So low carb diet supplement Inc. has 2 divisions. Division A has a profit of $156,000 on sales of $2,010,000. Division B is only able to make $28,800 on sales of $329,000. Based on profit margins, and they even define profit margins for you, that's return on sales, which division is superior? Return on sales, or return on anything, when you say return, that's net income basically, right? Okay, or profit. So net income or profit, those two are kind of synonymous, divided by whatever it is. In this case, it's sales. Sometimes we'll have return on assets. Sometimes we'll have return on equity. That's return on assets is net income divided by assets, and return on equity is net income divided by equity. And in this case, we have net income or profit divided by sales. So I set it up this way: Division A, Division B, and trust me, if you take a little bit of time and set these up, I know sometimes it'd be quicker just to do the math with the calculator, but it's a good habit to get into, because as we get into more complicated problems, setting them up is going to be essential. And so I like to do it even for the simple problems. But Division A had a profit of $156,000 and sales of, and if you put them the other way, that would be fine. In fact, normally you'd probably have sales, because sales is kind of the top number on your income statement and profit's the bottom number on your income statement. So I might argue that I did mine backwards here, and or upside down, and could have done them the other way. And then simply remember, return on sales is profit divided by sales. So this would simply be equal to, and I can hit my equal sign. That's all you have to do to start an equation. For those of you that are real good with Excel, sorry, I have to remember the last few times I've taught this class, a number of students really didn't have the background in Excel, so I'll try to be a little bit more thorough in terms of going through some of these. So I hit the equal sign, and once I do, that starts an equation. The Excel program knows then that I want to do an equation. Then I can just left click on that, my profit, okay, and then I hit the dividing sign, depending on your keyboard, but it's usually just that / and my sales. So I've got net income or profit divided by sales gives me return on sales, and then I hit the enter and it calculates it for me. Now it may have shown it like this. Okay, when it first did it, it may have shown it like this, and so I want to have it as a percentage. And so I'll just come up and click that %. It turns it into that, and I prefer, and as you guys are doing this, to please add a couple decimals on almost all of our solutions. We're going to want a couple of decimals. Oops, I hit the wrong one, so I need to add 1 and 2 decimals, and 7.76 becomes my answer. Okay, I can actually now, I could right click on this, I could hit copy, and I could right click here and hit paste. And this formula would come over, and the formula would be just fine, because it keeps the references to the cell where the formula is at. It keeps those references the same. So it's just saying that that's 28.8 divided by 329,000, which is 8 3/4%. So naturally, the division that has the smaller profit has the better return on sales. They must line things up like that just to try to confuse all of us a little bit, but sometimes that makes sense. You may have a small division, but they generate good profit margins, right? And so we're happy about that, and if we could invest more money in that smaller division, we might do that. Question 2 is your guys's, and I think I just used some different numbers and did kind of the same thing. And again, the question is, Database Systems is considering expansion into a new product line. Assets to support the expansion will cost $380,000. I think I used $500,000. It is estimated that Database can generate $1.41 million in annual sales with an 8% profit margin. What would net income and return on assets or investment, in this case, be for the year? Okay, so again, I used a little different numbers, but you guys could follow along here. Total assets, and in your guys' case, it would be the $380,000, right? And then it provides us with the sales, and I used a 1.2 million. You guys have a different number, and it provides us with the profit margin of 6%. So what's the profit margin? The profit margin says that if we go back here, right, it's our profit divided by our sales, and so our profit margin times our sales would give us our profit, right? I can come here and just do that really quick. This is equal to this times this, and that should be equal to 28.8, and it is, okay? And so I want to do that over here to figure out what my net income or profit is, and I could call this net income or I could call it profit. Whichever you want to do is fine. And I would hit that this is simply equal to, again, my profit margin times my sales. Boom. Okay. And now I have a net income, and then it asks me what would net income, what would return on assets, or it further defines that as investment, and I should put that right here, right? ROA, or it could be ROI, return on investment. Either one. I didn't have that label, but then that's just my net. Remember, return on anything is net income divided by whatever that anything is, or assets in this case. So this is simply going to be equal to my net income divided by, and I just left click up here on my total assets, and I get a return on assets of 14.4%. Okay. One other thing that I do, and you guys, it'd be nice, I would appreciate it if you'd kind of follow suit, is I'll highlight these and make them a nice color so that it's I know where to look for the answer. You know, when I pop it up, I know where to look for the answer. The reason I want you to do them in Excel is because I can click on this when you guys submit something, and I can see if you've put the formula in right. And sometimes I'll give partial credit, by the way, if you goof up a number. Folks will oftentimes mistype a number up here. You got the formulas right, but you mistyped a number, and so I'll maybe give a little partial credit for something like that. Okay, problem 3, and again, I think 3 is one that was assigned yet. And so I just did one that was similar. Your problem 3 says Polyester Dress Shops Inc. can open a new store that will do annual sales volume of $837,900. It will turn over its assets 1.9 times per year. The profit margin on sales will be 8%. What would net income and return on assets or investment be for the year? Okay, well, that's interesting, right? Okay, so it gives me some information, and it's requiring me to finagle a little bit. Is finagle a good word? I don't know, but I got to do a little extra work here. And I know that's frustrating, but write down the information that it gives you. First, it tells you what your sales were, and your guys is 837 something. I used $1 million for mine. I like to pick good round numbers. And I'll use an asset turnover of 2. Your guys' is virtually the same. Your guys is 1.9. And it gives me a profit margin, right? In my case, I put down 5.5%. Your guys is 8%. So get your info all just put in like that, and then it's kind of nice, right? Then it asks you for what would net income and return on assets or investments be for the year? Well, net income is my profit margin times my sales, right? We learned that from right back here, right? Profit margin times sales. Okay, so we're just repeating that, and so I can simply say this is equal to my profit margin of 5.5% times my sales of $1 million. Again, your guys' numbers are different, so 55,000, and I should give that a color, right? Try to match the other color. Sweet. Now, how do I figure out total assets? Because I have to figure out what return on assets is, but I don't know what my total assets are, right? Okay, and so it provides me, though, with my sales, and it says I turn my assets over 2 times. Okay, and what that means is that I whatever assets it takes me to run that business or any business. Okay, that means that my sales are twice whatever those assets are valued at. Okay, they're twice whatever those assets are valued at. So in my case, and again, I've got good round numbers, and so it's pretty easy, but your guys' math will be the same. It's just going to be my sales divided by my asset turnover. Okay, my sales divided by my asset turnover. And so I can hit equals. I can hit my sales, left click on that, hit my divided by, and click my asset turnover. Okay, and that's equal to 500,000 is my total assets. And I know if I was looking at it the other way, if I didn't know what my sales were, and they said, "Oh, you've got total assets of 500,000, and your asset turnover is 2," then I would take my 2 times my total assets to equal my sales, right? And so just working through things backwards and forwards and sideways to figure out some of our different numbers. So now I know in my case that I've got a net income of 55,000. I've got total assets of 500,000, and so my return on assets is again my net income divided by my assets. Return on anything is net income, and so I can simply hit equal to, left click on my net income divided by total assets, and I get 11%. And again, I probably got a number like that, and I change it to percent, and I might even do that just so that it, even though it's zeros, it gives me out a couple decimals. Okay, onward, number 4. Okay, here we go. And again, you guys have number 4 assigned, so I used different numbers but did the same thing. Billy's Crystal Stores. I love their names. Has assets of $5.96 million and turns over its assets 1.9 times per year. So that's kind of what I was talking about last time, right? that we're going to have to figure out, I'll bet you, what our sales are. Return on assets is 8%, so it's given us that. What is the firm's profit margin, or its return on sales? So, okay, so here's what it gave me, right? It gave me what my total assets were, and your guys' is different, but I used just 4 million, and an asset turnover, and I abbreviated, sorry, but asset turnover of 2 times. So I'm going to turn those over, so I know that in my case it's going to be 4 million, because the math's pretty easy, but in your guys' case the math's the same. It's just your asset turnover times your total assets. And that'll give you total sales, okay, which we're going to need because we have to figure out eventually, right, what the profit margin is, or return on sales. Okay. Now I calculated that, or it provides for me my return on assets. Okay, this was given to me, my ROA, right, in my problem. It says my return on assets is 8%, so that's given to me. Okay, so now I know what my assets are, and I know what my return on assets are, and so I can figure out my net income, right? Okay, because my return on assets is 8%, my total assets are 4 million. Okay, and so all I have to do is say that this is equal to, and we did this a couple problems ago, my return on assets times my total assets. 320,000. Okay, ROA is return or net income, right, divided by assets, and vice versa, or I can do it backwards and say that my return on assets times my total assets gives me my net income. Okay, so now I know what my net income is, and I calculated what my sales were, okay, because that was just my asset turnover times my total assets. And so my net income divided by my total sales should give me my return on sales then, right? So this is just simply equal to my net income divided by my total sales. Hit enter, and voila, 4%. My day we'd have said groovy. Yeah, I don't think they use groovy too much anymore. 3.6, and you guys have 7, and I'm guessing that 6 and 7 are quite similar here. I think I expanded 6 is what I did to make it look a little bit like your guys' number 7. So it kind of gives us a little bit of an abbreviated income statement, right? And it talks about income and profit and income after taxes, okay, from one year to the next, and asks us to figure out if things have increased or decreased, okay? And so, you know, you guys, this is all given, right? So just set it up like that. Set up your sales or cost of goods sold. I left a column in between there. If you forget to leave a column, just right click on the column and put insert, and it'll add a new column for you. Okay. And I got 2012, 2013. That's what you guys do. But I use the sales and those figures from problem number 6, and you guys have 7. And then it asks, for each year compute the following and indicate whether it is increasing or decreasing profitability. So you have to think about each one of these as you go along and what its effect is on profitability. Okay, and increase in expenses decreases profitability, right? A decrease in expenses increases profitability. Okay, and they're not asking about just the whole numbers, because it's hard to say, right? If your sales go way up, your cost of goods are going to go way up, right? But how about as a percentage then? And that's what it's asking for. And so we have to calculate some percentages and whatnot here, and they're relatively easy to calculate. And then we have to just figure out what the effect is on our bottom line. Okay, so I've input all the data, and you guys can do the same. And again, I think I made some data up based on whatever, and it doesn't matter. Okay, but now I got to calculate what my percentages are. So my cost of goods sold is sales if I'm selling widgets. Okay, this is what it costs me to get the widgets, and what percent is this of my sales, so I can get a percentage for my cost of goods sold, and that's just simply then equal to my COGS divided by my sales. Okay, so 64.16. Again, turn that into a percent if you would. It would look better. Okay, and which gives me then a gross profit. My gross profit is simply my sales minus my cost of goods sold, right? Okay. And then my selling and administrative expenses, okay, again, we want to calculate this as a percentage of our sales. Okay, this is an expense, this is an expense, and as will interest be an expense. So I've got three expenses, right? Okay, and so I want to do my sales and administrative based on my sales, so it's simply equal to my expense of $302,000 divided by my sales. Left click on that, it gives me 10.82%. And I do the same for my interest then. It's equal to my interest divided by my sales. Okay, so there you have it. Okay, now remember, if an expense goes up, the profitability goes down. Okay, or the contribution to profitability goes down. If an expense goes down, then the contribution to profitability goes up. Okay, so I repeat these over here. Okay, I just repeat the formulas, and honestly, I can, how come it's not doing it? I must have these protected, okay, because it's not letting me do a copy and paste. I don't know why. Huh. That's right. I maybe protected the sheet, but so this is just simply equal to this divided by my sales, and repeat those just like I did over here, right? My sales and administrative expenses divided by that. Okay, and in my case now, okay, I have an expense here. Cost of goods sold is an expense, and my expense ratio went from 64.16 to 63. So if an expense goes down, it's a benefit to profit. My selling and administrative costs, my expense went from 10.82% of sales to 11.67%. So I had an expense that went up, so that decreased profit. And my interest, well, my interest amount stayed the same, and so I know that as a percent of sales it went down, and so it actually increases my profit. Okay? And that's all it's asking for on those three particular categories. Okay? So just do your two columns, do your formulas, and you'll be golden. Okay, onward. Number 9. Network Communications has total assets of $1.5 million. Current assets of $612,000. It turns over its fixed assets 3 times a year. Oh gosh, so now they're going to make this really a pain. I hate when they do that. It has $319,000 of debt. Its return on sales is 8%. What is its return on shareholders or stockholders' equity? Dang. Okay, well, let's do this. Let's put in what they give us. We know we have total assets of $1.5 million. By the way, I believe that this is similar to your guys's for number 10. Is that what you guys have assigned? Yeah, you guys have 10. Okay, so I got total assets of $1.5 million. I got current assets of $612,000. Well, if you look at total assets, then your fixed assets plus your current assets equals your total assets. Likewise, then your total assets minus your current assets is going to equal your fixed assets. Total assets minus fixed assets would equal your current assets. So this is simply equal to my total assets minus my current assets. Okay, so that one I had to calculate, but it provides my debt. It says I have $319,000 of debt. Okay, so I put that in there. Okay, what's my equity then? Well, remember the accounting equation? The accounting equation is And sometimes you could do this in a couple different ways, but owner's equity, well, let's just do it this way: assets minus, or assets, let's do it that way. Assets are equal to liabilities. Again, you can restate it 100 different ways. Plus, not 100, about 6 different ways. Plus owner's equity, if I could spell. Right? Assets equals liabilities plus owner's equities, right? Okay. So my assets, or my total assets, are $1.5 million, and that's equal to my liabilities, which are $319,000, plus my owner's equity. So to calculate what my owner's equity is, it's just the $1.5 million minus the $319,000. Now we got to be careful when we're doing our formula here, right? Because I've got the $319,000 entered as a negative, right? And so if I, I'll make my mistake here on purpose. I'm purposely making a mistake. If I said that this was equal to the $1.5 million minus a negative $319,000, oh, how can my equity be bigger than, okay? And so I have to do $1.5 million, and then because my debt is shown as a negative number, I'm going to use the plus sign. So it's plus a negative, okay? And that'll give me my actual equity then, okay? Is $1,181,000. So, and I have to calculate what my return on equity is later, and so I need that, okay? Now, what else does it give me? It says my return on sales is 8%, so I've got 8% there. I just plug that in, it gives that to me. And I turn my fixed assets over 3 times per year. Wow, okay. So I had to calculate what my fixed assets were. So this isn't asset turnover, this is fixed asset turnover, okay? And so I've got fixed assets, or turnover rate of 3 times my fixed assets is what's going to give me my sales, right? Because it says I'm turning my fixed assets over 3 times. So all I have to do is say that this is equal to that times my fixed assets. I get 2,664,000. Okay, then I should be able to calculate the rest pretty easy, right? It says then, what's my return on shareholders' equity? Well, I got to figure out my net income first, right? I got to figure out my net income, and I know what my return on sales is 8%. Now I got my sales figured out. So return on sales, 8% times my sales should give me my net income. Let's see if that works. Equals my 8% times my sales, $213,120. And again, I could turn that into a dollar sign. It did that just because it got too many numbers, because there's too many decimals in there. So I took away a couple decimals and then it showed up. Okay, and then it asked me to calculate my ROE. So now I know my net income, and return on equity then is net income, right? Return on is net income divided by whatever, and I got equity, and I know my equity because I calculated it up here. So all I have to do then is say that this is equal to my net income, return on equity, divided by my equity, 18.5. Okay. That's really it for the problems. You guys have one more. You guys have problem number 13. But problem number 13 isn't a quantitative problem. It's a thought-provoking problem, and you should be able to find the answers for that by going back through the text, right? Explain why the return on equity ratio is so much less favorable than the return on assets ratio compared to the industry. So you might have to think that one through a little bit, and that's just a one-sentence answer. So you guys ought to be able to do that one yourself. Okay, with that, I'm going to sign off, and I'll send out a video a little bit later, today or tomorrow, that will get you started on your Project 1. So I will talk to you soon.